Hi everyone, I'm Clara Tristan for the Hub at TTU, and today I've got Raúl Cevallos, Vice President of Texas Student Democrats, and then I've got Jonathan Silva here, Coordinator of Events for the Young Conservatives of Texas. And we're going to be here discussing a little bit about some of the comparisons that people have been drawing from Senator Wendy Davis's filibuster in June and Senator Ted Cruz's talkathon, so to speak, last week. All right, so Raúl, could you describe a little bit more about what Senator Davis's 11-hour filibuster was concerned?
Well, this filibuster was really important because it definitely got her some national media coverage. Back in June, she was filibustering a anti-abortion bill which would ban abortions after 20 weeks. And also, we currently have about 48 abortion centers within Texas, and this bill would have limited those clinics to about 5. So it would have made abortions very much more difficult for people, and so Senator Davis obviously felt that that was an important bill to filibuster during the special session back in June. And she was able to successfully filibuster the bill and close the session, but unfortunately Rick Perry went ahead and added an extra special session, which ended up costing the taxpayers about an extra $800,000. And so it definitely hurt us on that. But yeah, it was definitely something that showed the Texans that someone is able to stand up to the way things have been running in the Senate so far.
Very interesting. Jonathan, do you have anything to say about that?
No, good facts on the filibuster. It is the way she filibustered. You know, it was in line with the rules of the Senate, and of course it would be something that makes sense that the Democrats would do, showing their disapproval for this kind of a bill. So in a Republican-run legislature in Texas, it was a bit of a surprise that this happened.
Okay, now could you tell us a little bit about Senator Ted Cruz's talkathon last week?
Glad you called it a talkathon. It's kind of hard to compare the two, since Senator Wendy Davis's speech was actually a filibuster, since she did block a bill and ran out the clock at the end of the session. But Senator Ted Cruz's talkathon was not meant to block the bill. It was only meant to make DC listen. So to compare the two as filibuster to filibuster would be a little incorrect, but they can be compared as they were in essence the same. You know, somebody standing up for hours, talking to the Senate floor and expressing their views on a certain issue. For Senator Wendy Davis, it was the abortion bill. For Senator Ted Cruz, it was the defunding Obamacare bill, a bill to defund Obamacare.
Mm-hmm. Now, you made an interesting point about how it was more just to make DC sit and listen. Do you think they listened, since Obamacare is supposed to come into action tomorrow?
Absolutely. I mean, there was huge media coverage on Senator Ted Cruz's talkathon. Every media outlet was covering it. Everyone was talking about it. It was trending on Twitter and Facebook, using the hashtag #MakeDCListen. And it wasn't just supporters of Cruz that were, talking about it. It was anyone who was disapproving of it on both sides. So both sides were talking about it. So that this huge media coverage of it, made it something that everyone was watching and everyone was listening to.
What's your view about all of this going on with Ted Cruz and the comparison being drawn between the two?
Well, I think DC definitely listened, but what they listened to was actually a bunch of political theater, really, from Ted Cruz's part. I think that, with Senator Davis, she was actually filibustering something that was actually able to be filibustered. Obviously, she was able to stop that from happening, at least in that session. But Ted Cruz, he knew he didn't have the votes to win. He knew he ended up being about 22 votes shy of being able to actually stop Obamacare. He knew that. That's why he got a lot of beef from his other fellow Republicans, and that's why he's right now kind of a controversial image within the Republican Party. So I think that what he's trying to do obviously is trying to look good for the presidential run in 2016. And it's not a coincidence that the other two that helped him, Senator Rubio from Florida and Senator Rand Paul from Kentucky, they also are looking at presidential runs in 2016. So it's not a coincidence that they also helped along with that talkathon. So I think what Ted Cruz is mostly wanting to do right now is to get some spotlight on himself. But obviously this talkathon didn't do much. Obamacare is still the law of the land, and we need to respect that and move forward.
Right, you bring an interesting point up about the future of Ted Cruz's political career, and we've also heard some rumors about Senator Wendy Davis possibly running for governor. She's not supposed to announce anything until October 3rd, but why don't you both tell me a little bit more about what you see each candidate and where they're going to go?
Okay, I'll start off with Cruz's talkathon and how it impacted his political future. You mentioned it earlier how this talkathon drew him a lot of negative attention while drawing positive attention. And of course, Cruz, along with Rubio and Paul, have set themselves aside from the rest of the Republican Party. Other Republicans like McCain have called them wacko birds of the Republican Party because they're, the big Tea Party Republicans. They're very extreme in their views. So setting them aside from the Republican Party is not necessarily a bad thing. We're seeing a new era of like a change in the GOP and where they're headed. And these senators are actually drawing in more and more likability and support for what they're doing. And this is all in the grassroots conservative area of the population of the nation. So this is actually something I can see helping them. With dissatisfaction with the Republican Party so far, with this group setting themselves aside, especially Cruz being the freshman senator, this is something that will help him, give him an advantage and set him aside from other candidates running for president come 2016.
And what do you think about Senator Wendy Davis and her announcement coming up this Thursday?
Well, I believe I can go out on a limb and say that she will be running. We've already gotten some leaked information from top Democrats that she will be running, so I can go ahead and say I'm about 98% sure that she will do that. And I think that it's a good thing that she will be doing that. I think it's time for some change. I know Texas, I'm sure Ted Cruz cares about Texas as much as Wendy Davis does. I think they both want to see Texas improve. Texas is doing great as far as bringing in jobs. We do respect that about how it's been running, but there's also some things that we need to improve. Obviously, we have the most uninsured citizens in Texas. We also have spent less than per student than any other state besides one. And so there are some things that Wendy Davis wants to improve in Texas. And so she's not just a women's rights issue politician, and that's what Greg Abbott's going to try to do for this gubernatorial race in 2014. He's going to try to think that she's only about women's rights, but she's focused much on education, on jobs. She's a business owner herself, so she's going to actually be focused on things that can improve instead of just trying to do some political theater for a presidential run.
Mm-hmm. Now, you said you were about 98% sure about her announcing that she was going to run for Texas governor. Jonathan, you brought up something that you don't think she's going to announce a run for governor, but for something else?
Well, yeah, her big announcement is supposed to be a secret, even though it's not so much a secret anymore. But since she's not coming out saying that she will be running for governor, there are a couple of other alternatives for what she might be running for. She's currently a senator out of Dallas, so she will have to give up that seat. And of course, to do that, she'd have to either run for governor, or in a little part of me thinks she might even be entering the lieutenant governor's race, since there is no prominent Democratic candidate for that race.
Okay, well, I think everyone has very interesting viewpoints about what's going to happen as far as Ted Cruz and Wendy Davis. So is there anything else you'd both like to add?
I just think that it's about time that we have someone that can actually contest Greg Abbott. We haven't had a Democratic governor in Texas since 1994, and so it's going to be good. We have a long way to go. Obviously, Greg Abbott has about $20 million in his war chest, and Senator Davis has only raised about $1 million. But the fact that we have national media coverage now, we've never had national media coverage for our gubernatorial races in Texas. So I think this might be our one chance to finally be able to take over the Texas Senate.
While I do know that she will win her Democratic primary, I doubt she will, take the governor's seats or any other seats with the candidates we have right now. As for Ted Cruz, he stands a much better chance of winning the presidential seat, since it will be an open seat, and he has already gained so much support from, fellow Republicans and of course the grassroots conservatives across the nation. So, in comparison to Davis and her filibuster, it did help her out and given her national attention, but Ted Cruz does stand a better chance of winning the presidential race if he decides to run.
All right, well, thank you both for being here with us. For the Hub at TTU, I'm Claudia Tristan.